The Celestial Jewel was a marvel of modern engineering, a luxury starship crafted with the precision of a master jeweler. Its sleek, silver hull glistened in the dim light of distant stars as it cruised through the icy mineral field known as the Frostbite Expanse. This region of space was a glittering ocean of frozen asteroids, each one containing valuable minerals that could fuel entire planets for decades. The wealthy and the powerful of the galaxy had come aboard the Celestial Jewel to experience the expanse's breathtaking beauty firsthand, all while enjoying the finest luxuries the universe had to offer. The ship was the size of a small city, with sprawling decks dedicated to entertainment, dining, and leisure. Artificial beaches with real sand, gravity-controlled tennis courts, and observation lounges with 360-degree views of space were just a few of the amenities available to its guests. At the heart of the ship was the Grand Atrium, a cavernous space with a glass ceiling that allowed the passengers to gaze upon the stars and the shifting ice fields above. Among the passengers was a man named Ethan Cole, a former tactical operator who had once served in the United Earth Coalition's elite special forces. After years of dangerous missions and high-stakes operations, Ethan had retired, seeking a life of peace and quiet. But even in retirement, he found it hard to shake off the instincts and vigilance that had kept him alive for so long. He had booked passage on the Celestial Jewel to escape, if only for a while, the memories of battles fought and comrades lost. He hoped the serene beauty of the Frostbite Expanse would offer him some solace. As he sat in the ship's lounge, sipping on a drink that was far too expensive for its size, he gazed out at the icy expanse, feeling a strange mix of awe and unease. There was something about the endless field of frozen asteroids that felt ominous, as if the coldness of space was seeping into his very soul. The calm before the storm. Unbeknownst to the passengers enjoying their luxurious cruise, a small group of men and women moved silently through the ship's lower decks. They were not tourists, nor were they part of the ship's crew. They were hijackers, and they had a plan. Their leader was a man named Kane, a ruthless mercenary with a reputation for taking what he wanted, no matter the cost. He had spent years planning this heist, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. The Celestial Jewel was not only a treasure trove of wealthy passengers, it was also transporting a cargo of rare minerals from the Frostbite Expanse, minerals that could fetch an astronomical price on the black market. Kane's team had infiltrated the ship by posing as maintenance workers and low-level staff. They had slowly and carefully prepared for this moment, sabotaging communication systems and disabling security protocols. Now, as the ship drifted further into the expanse, they were ready to take control. But Kane was not the only one who had noticed the small but significant anomalies in the ship's operations. Ethan, ever vigilant, had sensed that something was off. The way certain crew members moved, the subtle tension in the air, it all pointed to something being amiss. He decided to investigate, slipping away from the lounge and making his way to the lower decks. The takeover the hijackers struck with precision. Within minutes, they had taken control of the ship's bridge, overpowering the small security detail and locking down the Grand Atrium where most of the passengers were gathered. Kane issued a broadcast to the ship, his voice cold and authoritative. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your new captain speaking. We are now in control of the Celestial Jewel. If you cooperate, you will not be harmed. Resist, and we will not hesitate to take lethal action. Stay in your designated areas, and no one will get hurt." Panic rippled through the passengers as the reality of their situation sank in. The ship's luxurious trappings suddenly felt like a gilded cage. But while most passengers succumbed to fear, Ethan remained calm. He knew how hijackers operated: control, intimidation, and the element of surprise. But he also knew they were vulnerable. They were overconfident, thinking that no one on board could oppose them. Ethan made his way to the ship's security center, which was now under the control of two of Kane's men. Using his knowledge of the ship's layout and the hijackers' likely positions, he moved with the precision of a predator stalking its prey. He found a maintenance hatch that led to the security center's ventilation system, allowing him to bypass the locked doors. As he silently dropped into the room, the two hijackers had their backs to him, focused on monitoring the ship's systems. With swift, lethal efficiency, Ethan incapacitated them both, taking their weapons and locking them in a storage closet. He accessed the security feeds, assessing the situation. Kane had positioned his team strategically, covering all major points of entry to the bridge and the cargo hold. But they had overlooked one key detail: they did not expect someone like Ethan to be on board. Countermeasures. Ethan knew he couldn't take on all the hijackers at once. He needed to pick them off one by one, creating chaos and fear among them. He started by disabling the ship's internal sensors and environmental controls, plunging the lower decks into darkness and dropping the temperature to near freezing. The hijackers were dressed for a comfortable cruise, not for the biting cold of the frostbite expanse. Next, he used the ship's communication system to send misleading signals and false orders, making it seem as if there were multiple resistance efforts happening throughout the ship. This forced the hijackers to spread themselves thin, trying to deal with problems in different locations. Ethan moved through the ship like a ghost, using the darkness and cold to his advantage. He took down the hijackers one by one, using whatever tools and weapons he could find. A makeshift spear from a broken piece of metal, a garrote made from a maintenance cable, anything could be a weapon in the right hands. Kane, realizing that his team was being systematically eliminated, grew increasingly desperate. He ordered his remaining men to regroup at the bridge, hoping to fortify their position and wait for reinforcements. But Ethan was already 2 steps ahead. The final confrontation. The bridge was Kane's last stronghold. He had barricaded the doors and was holding the ship's captain and several crew members hostage. He knew Ethan was coming, but he didn't know from where or when. The tension in the air was thick, each hijacker nervously gripping their weapons, eyes darting to every corner of the room. Ethan, using the ship's maintenance tunnels, reached a hidden access point behind the bridge. He silently opened the hatch and slipped into the room, his movements as quiet as the void outside. He had no intention of negotiating, he was here to end this. The first hijacker didn't even see him coming. Ethan's knife flashed in the dim light, and the man crumpled to the floor. The others turned in shock, but by then it was too late. Ethan was on them, a whirlwind of lethal strikes. Within moments, only Kane was left, his back against the wall, holding a blaster to the captain's head. "Stop," Kane shouted, his voice shaking. "I'll kill him." Ethan paused, assessing the situation. He had Kane cornered, but the man was desperate and dangerous. There was only one way this could end. "You won't get out of here alive," Ethan said calmly. "Even if you kill him, I'll kill you before you take another breath." Kane's eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, but there was none. His hand trembled, the blaster wavering. Ethan took a slow, deliberate step forward. "Drop the weapon, Kane. It's over." For a moment, it seemed like Kane might surrender. But then, with a snarl, he shoved the captain aside and fired. Ethan was faster. He lunged forward, the blaster shot missing him by inches, and tackled Kane to the ground. They struggled briefly, but Ethan's superior training and strength quickly overpowered the hijacker. With a swift, brutal motion, Ethan disarmed Kane and ended the fight. As he stood over Kane's lifeless body, Ethan felt a familiar sense of grim satisfaction. The threat was neutralized, the ship was safe, and the passengers were unharmed. But the adrenaline rush faded quickly, leaving him with the same hollow feeling he had tried to escape by coming aboard the Celestial Jewel in the first place. Aftermath. The ship's crew quickly regained control of the Celestial Jewel with the hijackers eliminated. The passengers, still shaken by the ordeal, were reassured that they were safe once more. The captain, grateful for Ethan's intervention, offered him anything he wanted, a reward, a place of honor, anything. But Ethan declined. "I just want to get off this ship," he said quietly. The captain arranged for a shuttle to take Ethan to the nearest space station, where he could book passage to any destination of his choosing. As Ethan prepared to leave, the captain handed him a small, intricately designed medal. "It's not much, but it's a token of our appreciation," the captain said. "You saved hundreds of lives today. You're a hero." Ethan looked at the medal for a moment before slipping it into his pocket.